All right, we are now moving on to the final chapter, chapter 13 of The Art of War. This is on espionage, or spying. Let's get started. Master Sun said, raising an army of 100,000 men and marching them 300 miles drains the pockets of the common people and the public treasury to the daily sum of 1,000 taels of silver. It causes commotion at home and abroad and sets countless men tramping the highways exhausted. So we're out of money, people at home aren't happy, and the soldiers are walking around and they're tired. Two armies may confront each other for several years for a single decisive battle. So we can have a lot of wars going on, a lot of individual battles going on, but at some point there's going to be the Bunker Hill, or whatever sort of the decisive battle is for a long engagement. It is therefore callous to begrudge the expense of 100 taels of silver for knowledge of the enemy's situation. And this is where we get into the meat of this chapter. He's saying things in war can drag on and on. We can lose all of our resources, lose all of our people, lose all of our money. Nobody's happy. If we can find some way to shortcut this, then let's use it. And what is that way? All together now. Espionage. Great. Okay. So such a miser is no commander of men, no support to his lord, no master of victory. Prior information enables wise rulers and worthy generals to move and conquer, brings in success beyond that of the multitude. So Sun Tzu is saying here that if you will be willing to pay this money, also if you'll be willing to sort of engage in this kind of warfare, if you're willing to employ spies and use espionage, even though it's a very low form of warfare, it's really going to be worth it for you. And you can't say that you're a good general unless you'll do this. You can't say that you're serving your Lord well unless you do it. And he makes this point here that this is going to bring them success beyond that of the multitude. Okay, so even if you have a small army, which we assume that Sun Tzu is trying to address himself to, if we look at page 189 and 190, this is where he talks about the enemy's army being large, and so presumably his army is small. Then you have all the more reason to employ spies who can give you that advantage. Next, Sun Tzu writes, this information cannot be obtained from spirits. It cannot be deduced by analogy. It cannot be calculated by measurement. It can be obtained only from men, from those who know the enemy's disposition. So Sun Tzu's up to a few different things here. One thing that's going to be important is he's saying this art gives you something that can't be gotten by any other way. It can't be gotten by spirits, through divining, through religion, things like that. It can't be deduced from analogy, which is important for Sun Tzu to say. So not only deducing from analogy through historical process, saying, okay, this person did this, or when people do this, this happens. But it seems that he's also saying strategy is not enough. Everything that Sun Tzu's been writing up to this point, he's saying this isn't going to get it for you. Just like you can't expect for fire to finish the job of war, you can't expect for everything that we've done, that we've looked at in the art of war up to this point, to defeat your enemy decisively, to really give that crushing blow. If you want to give the crushing blow, if you want to find the weak spot, if you want to hit where there's no defense, then you need spies. This is a very, very important part of the art of war, and it's one reason why it's come under so much attack. Spying is not a very noble form of warfare, and Sun Tzu is not only saying that it's okay, he's saying that it's indispensable in order to actually be a good general. I wanted to make note of a second consistency that we have between chapters 12 and 13. In chapter 12, we looked at fire, and fire we usually think of as being something that spreads on its own, as having sort of a will of its own. And Sun Tzu is saying that the general is able to control fire, to sort of use his mind in order to get fire to do what he wants it to do. In addition to these tongues of flames, we can think about the general being able to control the tongues of men. The tongues of men In wars, many people have opinions, not only the soldiers, but also their officers. Not only the officers, but also the people who are sort of on the street, so to speak. Sun Tzu is saying that a good general has to be able to control these as well. He has to control tongues, he has to control speech, but also double speech. And this is sort of the highest ability of the general, is to be able to do this, but it's indispensable, as he says. And finally, if we think about this yin and yang symbol that I talked to you about at the beginning of this lecture, if you think about the yin side, the white side, within the white there's a little spot of the black. At the same time, within the black side, there's a little spot of the white. And if we think about this in terms of espionage, this is interesting. So even within the purity of the yin, there's a concentrated bit of yang, and the same goes for the yang side. This has important ramifications for this study in a number of different ways. The first is to say that in order to defeat the enemy, we need the enemy. In order to, if we are yin, if we're this white side, in order to defeat the black, we actually need the black. Okay. Second, we have to find the friendship within the enemy, right? So one thing that we do when we get spies is we make friends out of our enemies. At the same time, we have to be willing to rout out the enemies from within our friends. So if we are again on this yin side, we need to find the yang and be able to recognize it within our own side. And this is, I think, an important principle of Taoism, but also of the nature of war, of human psychology, of interrelations and things like that. That nothing's pure, nothing's going to be separated. And the thing that does make us most different from something else is very, very quickly subvertible. It can be changed within the blink of the eye. Within the art of war here, we have Sun Tzu telling us how to defeat people, how to kill, how to do this and that. But then this is the same chapter where he's telling us treat people nicely. He talks about hospitality, because if you treat a prisoner nicely, if you treat a spy nicely, then there's a chance that you can get something good out of it. Next, we get into the 5 types of spies. This is on page 318. There are 5 sorts of spies: local, internal, double, dead, and live. When these 5 sorts of espionage are in operation, no one knows the way of it. Here again we have this word Dao. It is called the mysterious gain, the Lord's treasure. Local spies come from among our enemies' fellow countrymen. Internal spies from among our enemies' officials. Double spies from among our enemies' own spies. Dead spies are those for whom we deliberately create false information and they pass it to the enemy. Live spies are those who return with information. In the whole army, none should be closer to the commander than his spies, none more highly rewarded, none more confidentially treated.